So last year there was an incident that transpired on the train in New York City. Um, a homeless man was killed in 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 the vicinity of a watchful crowd. A watchful crowd watched as a person's life was snuffed away from him, was snuffed out of him, and we fast forward to today. The trial is ongoing, and it's been going on for maybe about a week now, and it's expected to go on to around, I believe they said, Thanksgiving. A lot of deliberation, a lot of bringing in witnesses, prosecutor witness, defense witness. So all that's going to be going on, they said, up until maybe Thanksgiving sometime. So we paid attention to Young Thug's case. We paid attention to YNW Melly's case. We watched with anticipation, and we, maybe for our own enjoyment or because we were entertained by these particular people, or these was high profile cases, so we took an interest into them. But this case is is as important as those cases, if not more important than those cases, because this this incorporates justice. Justice comes into play in this particular case because we're going to see if the actions of one person was justified or justifiable in the taking of the life of another. And it's important because New York doesn't have, we saw what happened in the Trayvon Martin case, where it was justifiable for George Zimmerman to use a gun to defend himself. And a lot of people was kind of upset with the verdict, and that kind of created tension with especially young black males. It was a lot of tension with them, or the black people in general. It didn't seem like there was the law was upheld and it was justice served on behalf of an unarmed teen being publicly, or I mean, killed because a misunderstanding. So in this case, you'll hear about Jordan Neely being belligerent and unhinged to the point where he had to be subdued, and being subdued to the extent of him ultimately losing his life. So I took an interest in this case because I'm aware that people with mental illnesses, that they claim that he had a mental illness, and homeless people are amongst those that would be deemed outcast, or those that need to be under a certain scrutiny and watched. So I've seen instances of people being targeted because they were homeless, or they was categorized as a threat to the well-being and welfare of others. So this what the case is involving, if he was a threat to the welfare of others, because during the beginning of the trial, when news reporters spoke on the case, they gave you a list of how many times he's been incarcerated, or how many times he's been in trouble with the law, to give you a idea or understanding of the character of Jordan Neely. And they also gave you um, an idea of who Daniel Penny is by saying that he was an ex-Marine. So they're clearly trying to paint him as a hero that saved people from a violent and belligerent man, and that may not be the case. The case may be that, you know, it could be a lot deeper than that. You know, especially when it comes to mental illness and homelessness. You know, because there's people that if you go and look at the history of certain other things, you will find, you know, information pertaining to the mentally ill and those that are homeless, you know, or what they would call bottom feeders, or people that are what they call dregs, or um, low life. So whatever you want to call it, however you want to say it, but there's situations that involve watching and monitoring and targeting certain people. You know, like in the targeted individual program, they would like to believe that they only target you because, you know, you're special, or that you have um, God, or, you know, if that was the case, then, you know, everybody with, you know, Christ or Muhammad on their tongue would be targeted. So there's other reasons why certain people would be targeted, and mental illness is one, you know, and homelessness is another one. In certain activities that you do online would be another one. So, and that could stem from any and everything that involves a certain keyword that will come up in the system. See, this isn't a human program. It's a program that's actually ran by AI, and it goes into what somebody may, you know, look up and key in, and then they'll be, you know, sort out because of maybe certain ideologies, or certain websites they might visit that may put them in that program as well. So it's not all about, you know, I'm a special person, this is the reason why they have to watch and monitor me. So, you know, they have a long list of reasons why you can actually be on a government watch list. So it doesn't only mean, you know, you're a being with God. That can be one. If your God may be in opposition to what they believe, then that can be one. But, you know, it goes back even to the Bible. You know, they wasn't just watching Christ because they believed that he was, you know, the Son of God. They didn't believe he was the Son of God until after, you know, the crucifixion. But until then, they called him crazy. They called him demon possessed. They called him all sorts of things, and they sent people to watch him, to catch him up, to say certain things. So in this particular case, I see parallels with that. I believe that, you know, he was targeted because I spoke about the incident in another video. I believe it was called The Obligation of Christianity, which is to abide in the Spirit. I believe that's it, you know, to abide in the Spirit, or it's something like that. But There's a video that if you haven't seen it, it's in my history, and he, you've seen footage where he was being um, harassed by what would be called or considered a gang stalker, somebody with their phone and taunting you and trying to get you out of character. And once you get out of character, and they could call you or deem you crazy by how you react to them. So this is one thing that we've seen already, pertaining to Jordan Neely. Somebody, they came to him, they harassed him, and poked at him until they actually got him to react. So once they captured that reaction, now this is a way for them to classify you and label you as insane. So for me, I seen him as a potential, what you want to call a targeted individual, but he may not have known, what that is, or how, that that particular thing works, to safeguard itself from it, because they use a lot of mind control and psychological tactics to break a person down and bring them to homelessness. And then after that, one of the things that they do is seek to take you out. If you don't take your own self out, they'll take you out themselves. So this is how, that system works. And, these are, the military, and any and everybody could be used to follow you around and stalk you or whatever. But in that particular case, they were saying that he squeezed himself on the train. He held the train, and then he opened up the doors, and then he came on the train, and he was, screaming and yelling and, you know, um, acting uncivilized. And, the end result of that was somebody took it upon themselves to, subdue him to the point where, you know, they, you know, he lost his life. So, they have videos of the incident where he lost his life, but they don't have videos of him being belligerent. They don't have video. You got to understand, New York the transits have cameras on the trains. They have them. They implemented them on the train after a certain event happened prior to that. So New York, the trains had cameras on them, and not one time had anybody release footage of him being belligerent, of him threatening anybody, and none of that was depicted. I've been watching, the trial, and nothing's coming out, but a lot of people saying that they was in fear, that he was being, he was screaming, and I had to, hide my kid. And that's kind of a normal thing living in New York. That's all over the place. Everywhere you go in New York City, there's people with with that type of behavior pattern. People even probably, you probably even seen worse. And there's a video that I have that says people do anything for likes, where they have somebody recording somebody eating a hot dog, and he gets something on his hand, and the person with him states that, hey, he don't have no napkins, so he rips the shirt off of another person on the train and gives that man a napkin. So what that I say that to say that, you know people always recording. So if you're going to record, especially in a city where any and everything is prone to happen. How come there's no video footage of Jordan Neely actually, acting a fool and putting people in fear and hearing him threaten people to the point where I have to go and do something about this. I have to go and handle this. I have to do my civic duty by, subduing this guy, because if not, then he may hurt somebody. This is where that is justifiable at. And that's the thing. New York doesn't have a stand your ground law. New York has um, a retreat law. You have to retreat in any kind of situation where you're confronted with anything that may be violent, that you can use violence in. You're unless you're cornered, you have a certain law, and it's almost like the castle law that's in New Jersey and in Connecticut, and it's similar, but this one doesn't allow you to physically um, be combative with anybody. You can't physically, you know, uh, um, do anything to anybody if it's not in dire need of you doing something. They have the Good Samaritan law, and that's not pertaining to jumping in front of um a gunman. That's pertaining to if you see somebody that's in aid that needs help, and you can aid in the system, and if something happens to them in the interim of you aiding assisting them, then if you acted in good faith, you can be relieved of any kind of legal charges. That's if you're aiding somebody that may have a drug overdose, that may be um, trying to jump off a bridge, and you're holding on to their hand, but yeah, they actually slipped, and you won't be charged with any kind of legal proceedings. Like, they can't charge you with anything. But as far as you being grossly negligent in anything that involves harm or fatal injuries, then like choking somebody because they was belligerent, then you can be charged with a crime, and that crime would probably fall underneath manslaughter. And if it's find out that it's premeditated, then that's where um, murder comes in. First degree murder comes in that. So if you find that these people that were all involved in subduing this person and holding them down, and and it's not justifiable, then that's where that the extremity of that case comes in at. you know because they 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 want to make it a case about mental illness and what New York should do about the mentally ill. And the justice for the mentally ill would be to be put in mental institutions where they have treatment 24/7, because this isn't something that they can control on their own. This is something that needs constant supervision. So justice, you got to understand, this is, United States of America. So when you pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, um, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice and liberty for all, with liberty and justice for all, with freedom and justice for all. So it's freedom and justice for all. So the justice for a homeless man, justice for homeless men or homeless people, period, would be, housing for them, some form of safe haven for them to reside in. So no, there's no homelessness, or there is no reason for a homeless person to be called homeless because they have somewhere to reside. That is justice for the homeless. And justice for the mentally ill. The mentally ill would be a sane asylum, to put them inside of an institution where they're um, where they're where no one is subjected to mental or belligerent behavior. These are um, qualified specialists that's supervising them. These are people that knows how to deal with the homeless. I mean, and the mentally ill. These are qualified people that can deal with that. So that would be justice for them. So if there's no institution set up where they are actually put in there because this is what would be considered justice, not for you to see someone that's belligerent and seek to carry out justice on your own. So that's why this case is kind of important, because it lets people know the scope of their their power, what's in their power to do. The only thing you could have done in that situation was call the authorities, was to call the police and have him, removed and brought somewhere. And if the police failed to do that, then that would be on the police, on their conscience. But to put that plainly, is to say that anybody can just assault anybody because they see them acting out in public. You could take it upon yourself to, subdue somebody and end up, that's not, how things are supposed to be carried out. But what I've seen during the course of the trial is um, the media trying to depict Daniel Penny as a hero, and that's far from the truth. That's far from the truth, because he would be a hero if Jordan Neely was at the brink of taking someone's life and he acted in defense of him physically violating somebody or hurting somebody, and he acted and made haste to prevent that from happening. But that was the opposite. He was taking Jordan Neely's life, and no one acted in defense of Jordan Neely to prevent Daniel Penny from taking Jordan Neely's life. No one broke. They was holding Jordan Neely's hands and preventing him from freeing himself from his grips. You see in the picture, he has him subdued from the neck, and he has him in a leg lock around his whole body to prevent him from getting up. This was an assassination. This was actually an assassination. If you show me footage of Jordan Neely, that warranting that type of response and that type of force being needed, then I won't say anything about anything, and I just keep my mouth shut for good. But that's what I've seen. What I've seen is what's been displayed. They may fool the populace or get the populace to agree with them, but then that goes back into, you know, how good is justice if justice isn't served or if it isn't carried out. Is his actions justifiable? No. If they're not, then he should be charged with a crime. If his actions were justifiable, then he should be let free. he should be let free immediately. He shouldn't even stand trial if his actions was justifiable. This shouldn't be even, a topic of discussion. But they don't give you any kind of footage that shows Jordan Neely being that belligerent and that aggressive to the point where he needed to be subdued. There's videos all on the train, and at any given time, there's people with their phone in their hands. So the moment that somebody show up on New York Transit acting crazy, the first thing that they do is they take their phone out and they start recording. That's the first thing they do. These things go viral. So all these people on the train saw somebody screaming and yelling and getting in people's face, and no one took it upon themselves to bring the phone out until after he's being subdued. And then everybody got their phone out from every different angle, recording it. I call BS when I see BS. I seen that as a public um, display of an assassination of a targeted individual. Of what is a targeted individual. That's why I tell you, don't be a targeted individual, because they know exactly how to come at you. They know exactly where you're going to be at. They know how to trap you off. So that's why I always specify, do not be a targeted. He was a targeted individual. He could have been. You got to understand, when you're targeted, you're under mind control. So he could have been under mind control. And what mind control is, people think that it's just some way of, manipulating and controlling you. No, mind control could be you being conditioned psychologically to behave a certain kind of way, or um to react a certain kind of way. That's a form of mind control. So in mind control, in targeting, when you see um, TV commercials like Arby's. You wasn't thinking about Arby's, but then there comes a commercial just in front of you. Arby's, this juicy sandwich in front of you. Now your mind is saying, "Oh, I want that sandwich," and then you go and get one of those sandwiches. That was a form of mind control, and it's from what they call inception. Being ideas planted inside your head. So that's where a lot of people fall victim in the whole targeted individual programming. Even being a targeted individual is a form of mind control and manipulation. These are some of the tactics that they use to trap people off, and that puts you inside of a certain box. And like I said, once you're that, then what they're known of, what they're capable of doing, you're capable of doing that as well. So that's what, I've told you about a situation that I had in New York one time. I was down by the Greyhound station. I was down by Greyhound and waiting on the bus to go back to, Jersey. And as I'm sitting out there waiting, I've seen a group of people start to mount up around me, and these were some Hispanic people, like they was foreigners, but they was just coming around me. And, I was aware of them because I'm aware that, I'm, somebody that ended up on that list as well, you know, and but they think that you're somebody that don't know what's going on, but you do. And that's the only thing that could possibly get you out of that, is by you being aware of it. So I've seen them, and I've seen them look at the others. They they looked at the other people, and I had I had a bag on me, and I went inside of my bag, and when I did, they backed up. They shook their head like, nah, mm, don't. I spoke about this before, so that this is a true events. You know, they could have assaulted me and put me in the same situation and said the same thing about me. You know, I was down there being crazy and we had to subdue him and this, that, and the third about me, you know, then went back into, you know, certain things that happened in my past and used that as a justifiable means for them to, you know, you know. So this is some of the tactics that they use as far as um um targeting people and homeless people and stuff like that, you know. So it's all so somewhat of you know, it's sort of a game that's being played, you know, and they're playing with a lot of people's lives because this is one thing that they don't value. They don't value lives of anybody, you know. So they can't. You can't watch and monitor somebody, then send agents their way and say that you value their life. You can't have people's family and stuff like that turn on you and you know and say that you value lives. You can't. So this is what I'm getting out of this situation as well. You know that they, you know, found found him vulnerable to attack. You know, I showed you the incident. I showed you the video where he was being harassed by somebody and recorded at the same time, and you know, they got him to snap, and he started to swing at the guy's camera and stuff like that. So he got what he wanted out of the situation. He got, you know, a reaction out of him. So when people see, you know, or hear about something happening to him, then they like he was crazy, and that's not even the case. He could have been a peaceful person, but when you're coerced into acting a certain way, and then they bottle that up and they capture that and use that as that's who your character is, then you know we're dealing with a twisted society. We're dealing with a mentally ill society because one thing that's a part of mental illness that you don't know about is lying is a part of mental is a mental disorder. Lying makes you mentally ill. So yeah, lying is part of the narcissistic personality disorder. It's part of it's part of a few disorders, but lying is in the center of a lot of them. So when you see things that aren't there and you believe them to be true, or you believe certain things that are not true that are true, then you know that's part of a mental disorder. So if you have people that's purposely lying, psychopathical liars and stuff like that, then you know that's part of a mental disorder. So we're all everybody that's you know living a lie or carrying out a lie or telling lies, and you know that's part of a mental illness. And you know the truth is like the only remedy for that. And I'm not sure how to tell other people that you know you have to stop lying. You have to start dealing with the truth. If not, then you're mentally ill. You know, so if you think mental illness is just people that's you know just blurting things out in public, then nah, you're sadly mistaken. A lot of people that lie, you know, a lot of people that are even paid to lie are they have a mental illness, you know. So um that's what I wanted to touch on because a lot of people haven't been been speaking on that case. You know, it was a big thing in the social media last year, but this year, you know, it's crickets. No one's really saying anything about it, and they should be because we want to you know make sure that justice becomes justice and stop being a fictitious form of justice. We want justice for you know either you know Daniel Penny if he acted um justly, then we wouldn't want him to go to prison if you know he did what he did in the best interest of, you know, those people, and he acted as a true hero. We don't want him to go to prison, but if he did things maliciously and he you know used excessive force and he was grossly negligent, then yeah, you know the you know Jordan Neely should have justice. So this is the reason why certain things should be followed. You know, certain things should be followed. You know, and the thing with Young Thug, we saw his case. We saw how lenient the judge was on him. Then after he get out, he makes a song called I forget what it's called, but he said, you know, after judge, you know, he should be praising the judge. His whole thing should be praising God because his whole situation could be a lot worse than what it is. You know, it could be a lot worse, but you know, in yeah, yeah, you know. So we have to identify, you know, who is who and what is what. You know, is this guy a hero or is he a murderer? Is he, you know, justified or was his actions grossly negligent? You know, and these are the things that we have to ask and we have to pay attention to because if not, and what we're doomed if we can't get justice at all. At no time can we get justice. Is then what are we living for? What what good is the Constitution? What good is pledging allegiance to anything that doesn't uphold what the allegiance is to? You know, your allegiance is to liberty and justice for all. You know, is for that's what your allegiance is to. It's a pledge of allegiance to what? To liberty and justice for all, not for this certain group of people, not for that certain group of people, but liberty, freedom, and justice for all. You know, freedom and justice for all. You know, so if there's no justice for somebody that was wrongly um, that had a wrongful death, but there's praise and acclaim for them, then you know justice is false. Justice is false. We have to make sure that when it comes to um, justice, justice is what justice is. No one should be getting any kind of special treatment. No one should be having any kind of um, um, impartial, partial judgment. Your judgment should be the same judgment that it would be for me, it should be for you. And I wouldn't have it any other kind of way. If I did something wrong, I would want to, suffer the consequences of it. I wouldn't be trying to, evade it. I wouldn't be trying to avoid it. I would have to confront it. That's the difference between um, being a man and being a man. You do the crime, you do the time. You can't do something and then run from it. You um, and that's the only thing that I have for that because like I stated, I made videos about this previously. The same thing, same way I made videos about other things previously, and then they end up coming to pass. They end up coming to pass. You know, they I don't know what you want to call that, but that's just what it is. You know, but um, do do we understand how a person can be watched and monitored and targeted? You know, and who or how they use people to carry certain things out, and do we don't understand those things yet, then You know, we're still turning a blind eye to certain aspects of this reality. You know, so that's what I've seen. That's what I've seen. You know, that if they show the video, which they're probably not, if they haven't already showed you a video of Jordan Neely acting belligerent, even outside of the train, coming into the train. They don't have no video of him in the train station, going onto the train. You know, they don't show you anything. They just showed you a person being, you know, choked. And one thing I know about people is that people lie. You know, people lie and men lie. The camera, which is AI, is not going to lie. So where's the camera? The camera's not going to lie. You know, they could doctor it, but a live footage of the camera is not going to lie. You can doctor a camera all you want to, but where's the footage of, you know, Jordan Neely going haywire and everybody showing people going in a ruckus, or they saying, "Oh, I'm scared. Oh, somebody please save me." And then, you know, the person that decides to be a hero show up and save everybody. You know, there's people that say they didn't feel threatened at all. There's people that, you know, say that yeah, he may have been crazy, but he didn't threaten anybody. There's there's that. And then there's others that saying that, you know, I was scared. Ooh, thank God he showed up, you know. So we want to be clear about deception, you know, about being deceived, you know. You know, a lot of people are deceivers. Doesn't matter who they are, what they look like, what part of the planet they come from. If they aren't um, operating underneath the righteousness of God, they are able to deceive you. You know, man, woman, even child, children. Children lie because they get that from, you know, the people amongst them, their parents, the society. You know, they are liars. You know, so we have to be mindful about, you know, taking a person's word because of if they're a child or if they're a woman or if they're a man or if they're a judge or if they're a cop. It doesn't matter. They all have the tendency to lie and fabricate and not uphold justice. So this is one thing that we have to acknowledge about the truth. But like I said, the camera's not going to lie to you. So where's the camera? Where's the footage of Jordan Neely acting crazy? You know, coming onto the train and wilding out. You know, you know. So if we could stop them from um, fabricating certain things and staging certain things, then you know maybe we could move forward from there. You know, because if that's the case, then nobody is safe from anything. Nobody. You know, so I'm not sure what type of society we're looking to live in. But when it comes to freedom and justice, if those things are null and void, then you if those things are null and void, I don't know what kind of society you're living in. It's definitely not a civilized society. Justice and liberty is amongst a civilized people. It's a in a civilization. Justice and freedom reign supreme. You know, because you know that's you know this a nation under God. You know, with justice and liberty. Yeah. So I just wanted to share that because I've seen it. I've seen the trial unfolding, and it's you know it'll probably be carried out for about the next week. And if they don't show any kind of footage of Jordan Neely wilding out and acting belligerent, then that's just a case of being targeted, them targeting somebody, isolating him, and you know, carrying out, you know, malicious and wicked acts. And Jordan and Daniel Penny shouldn't be the only person that's charged. The other person that was holding his hands should be charged too. If you take a close look at the picture, they all look like, you know, military. Whether ex-military or current military, they all look like military. If you take a look at the incident of the people that surrounded him, you know, if you look at the people surrounding him, they all had phones out. It was a murder. Sorry to use that terminology, but that's just what it is. And don't forget, the Bible says, "Thou shalt not murder." You know, you can, you know, you may have to, you know, do other things, but murder, no, that is, you know, against God. That is against the commandment of God. Remember, it was changed to that because there's a big discrepancy of that and something else. But if you are surrounding a person and you're recording it as it happens, and you're on the outside of the train recording it as it happens, and you're standing right in front of him, helping that happen, that's murder. There's no way around that. There's no way of getting around that. There's no way around it. You know, there's no way of getting around it. So, um, yeah, I want to share that with y'all because, you know, it needed to be shared. And, you know, the case should be over with within the next week or so. And, you know, if he's free, you know, this is only my opinion. You know, no one's accusing him of anything, but I do know how, you know, the targeting program work. You know, and I know those that are targeted and why they would be targeted. So that's just something to consider. You know, and if he wasn't targeted, then, you know, that's another thing to consider. You know, but we need to find out solutions on how to combat, you know, homelessness and mental illness. And again, another form of mental illness is lying. Lying. If you don't believe me, go look that up. Go say if lying is a mental illness or what mental illness is lying, then you'll find out. You know, because mental illness is, I mean, lying is amongst a mental illness. And that's not something to pick on anybody about. That's something for you to ask people to go and get help for, you know, lying, you know, and so we can deal with the truth, you know. So I just wanted to share that with y'all because it needed to be shared. That's all. Peace.